Room 5. This week for Social Studies, you have Chapter 28 for the next 4 weeks. So we're going to do a section a week. So today I'm going to read the beginning of Chapter 28 and Section 1. And then next week I'll post Section 2 and we'll go from there. Okay? I'm sorry, the video, you have the packet of the book at home. I copied it for you. I took pictures of my book so I can put it up here for you, but the quality isn't great, so you can follow along, or you can follow along in your packet at home. Okay, so as you know, before World War II, European nations controlled many colonies in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. After the war, people in these colonies wanted to be free, to make their own economic and political decisions. In this chapter, you will watch colony after colony in Africa become independent. You will also learn about the apartheid. Then you will journey to the Middle East, where the Israelis and the Palestinians fight for many years. Next, you will cross overland to India and learn about Gandhi. His leadership brought freedom to India. Then you will travel to China and Vietnam, where fierce wars were fought. I'm going to get my next picture up for you. Oh, that's Harper. I went the wrong way. Sorry. Okay, Section 1. Many African colonies become nations. Between 1945 and 1990, more than 50 African countries became independent nations. The number is large because Africa is large. It has many different countries. Africa has 3 different geographic areas. The first is North Africa. It is the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Sahara Desert. Muslim Arabs and Muslim Berbers live there, but they have different culture and religious roots. The second geographic area in Africa is the Sub-Sahara. It lies below the Sahara Desert. People from many different cultures live on the land south of the Sahara. The third geographic area in Africa is its southern tip. What is African nationalism? For many years, native Africans struggled to gain economic and political freedom from their European colonial rulers. We shall call their struggle African nationalism. Beginning in 1900, the Pan-African movement met several times planned for the political independence of Africa. The Pan-African movement wanted Africans to achieve economic strength and political peace. To do this, they had to work with what they had in common. The movement helped Native Americans and their descendants in every part of the world. The group trained people who became political leaders of several new African nations. Okay. What African nations were independent after World War II? When World War II ended, North Africa had only 3 independent nations: Egypt, Ethiopia, and Liberia. At the southern tip of the continent lay South Africa, which also had self-rule. Between North Africa and South Africa lay the other land of this huge continent. Britain, Belgium, and Portugal controlled most of this land, of this in-between land. Okay, if you look on the map, it shows you the independence in Africa. This map shows the political boundaries of each African nation in the year it became independent. Name 2 countries that became independent in the 1950s. So take a minute, look at your map, and you find some interesting facts there. Also, this book was written in 2001. So at the end of this video, I'll find you a better map, a newer map. Okay, World War II weakened the political position of all the European colonial powers. During World War II, more than 200,000 Africans fought on the side of their British and French colonial rulers. After the war, these people felt they had earned the right to rule themselves. What French colonies became independent? The European colonial powers denied self-rule and independence. France, in particular, did not want to lose its colonies in North Africa. However, Morocco and Tunisia, both French colonies, gained their independence. But France wanted to hold out on the colony of Algeria. The French went to war with Arab and Berber people living there. This war lasted from 1954 to 1961, but in 1962, Algeria, the last French colony in North Africa, finally won its independence. What other nations became independent? Over the next 20 years, the new Africa continued to grow. In 1960 alone, 17 African nations gained their independence. Because of this, historians call 1960 the Year of Africa. By the 1980s, more than 50 African countries became independent nations. These new nations included Kenya, Mali, Nigeria, Senegal, Zaire, and Zimbabwe. Eritrea, the last area to gain its independence, became a nation in 1993. What is apartheid? Until the 1960s, the Union of South Africa was the only self-governing nation in the southern part of the continent. It belonged to the British Commonwealth of Nations, a group of nations that is loyal to the British monarch. South Africa was different from the rest of Africa because whites controlled it. In 1948, the white-controlled government in South Africa made apartheid official. Policy. This policy set blacks and other non-white South Africans apart from whites. White South Africans refused to give black and other non-white people any political, economic, or social rights. Whites did not allow non-whites to vote. Whites decided where non-whites could live. Great Britain and other nations protested this apartheid policy. South Africa then withdrew from the British Commonwealth. In 1961, South Africa became a republic. How did black South Africans fight apartheid? In 1976, a protest against apartheid turned into a riot. More than 500 people, mostly blacks, were killed. In 1983, a car bomb near a military base killed or injured more than 100 people. The African National Congress, a black nationalist group, said it had done the bombing. As black South Africans struggled for equal rights, some used violence, others did not. Bishop Desmond Tutu led non-violent protests against apartheid. For his efforts to free South Africa from apartheid, Tutu also was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984. In 1986, South African government said that blacks could no longer discriminate against apartheid. That is, they could not join together with other blacks to protest and march against apartheid. The blacks continued to protest. The South African government put many black political leaders in jail. Why was Nelson Mandela jailed for 26 years? On the first day that young Mandela went to school in South Africa, his teacher gave him an English name, Nelson. In his native language, Bohia meant he who pulls the branch of a tree. The English translate this word as troublemaker. As an adult, Nelson Mandela did make trouble for those who wanted apartheid. He changed the history of his country. In June 1964, a South African court sentenced Mandela to life in prison. The court said that Mandela had tried to overthrow the white minority government. The government wanted to silence Mandela because he worked to gain political, economic, and social rights for black South Africans. For 26 years, he remained in prison. Who released Mandela from prison? The South African government locked Mandela behind prison walls, but he still became a hero for black South Africans. In 1989, F.W. de Klerk became president of the Republic of South Africa. By this time, the black protest to end apartheid was growing stronger. President de Klerk legalized the African National Congress. That is, he said that people could join it without breaking the law. In 1990, de Klerk released Mandela from prison. How did Mandela help South Africans? The African National Congress declared that Mandela was its leader. Right away, Mandela called for an end to white privileges. For 4 years, Mandela and de Klerk negotiated over black political, economic, and social rights. Finally, the two leaders agreed to a plan. It provided for South Africans' first multiracial election. Multiracial means all people and all races. A multiracial election means everyone can vote. Because of their work together, de Klerk and Mandela were awarded the 1993 Nobel Peace Prize. In 1994, the people of South Africa elected Mandela to be their president. He served one term. Then, in 1999, at the age of 80, he retired from public office. People around the world honored him. He had broken down apartheid and united a divided nation. All right, guys, sorry for all of the interruptions. I got my kids with me. Next week, I'm going to read section 2, so just focus on section 1 today. Listen to it, and look at your questions, just like we do the study guide in class, okay? And I hope to see you soon. Bye.